Hello everyone and welcome back to Destiny. As you may know, the larger Destiny community hasn't been in a very positive headspace this week. We're off the heels of the XP controversy and the endgame issues, only to find ourselves in a new controversy surrounding Curse of Osiris and players being locked out of content they had access to only a week ago. Today, Bungie issued a statement detailing their plans to fix these issues. In this video, I'm going to summarize what's been going on, then we'll go over Bungie's statement and my thoughts on what it all means. Let's get into it. So first up, let's quickly summarize the issues that Bungie is addressing. Since the DLC came out on Tuesday, a lot of really unexpected changes went into effect. First up, of course, we had the expected level cap increase to 25 and the power cap increase to 335. However, this is only accessible to those who have purchased the expansion. The issue is that all activities have also been increased in the power requirement. The normal mode Nightfall has been increased from 240 to 270. Not too bad there. And then the normal rate has been increased from 270 to 300. So essentially, the normal mode Leviathan now kind of feels like the Prestige Leviathan. But that's not the worst part. The real issue is the Prestige difficulty of both of these activities, which has been upped to 330 power, a milestone that is no longer achievable without the ownership of Curse of Osiris. There are also some pretty other unforgivable residual effects. The exotic raid quest to attain Legend of Acreus features a part where you have to defeat the arms dealer strike at 300 power. Now yesterday when I was working up my hunter, a follower of mine reached out to me and asked if I can help him complete the 300 arms dealer strike for that part of the quest. I had already done that part of the quest about 3 to 4 times on other characters, and I actually needed it for the hunter that I was playing with, so I said sure, why not, let's go do it. Well, as soon as we started, we were very quick to realize that the enemies were a little bit more powerful than they probably should have been. And as it turns out, despite the tooltip reading differently, the enemies inside that strike are at 330 difficulty. Not really sure why. Sadly, we quickly realized that we were in no shape to be able to complete it, so we're going to have to come back to it in a different day. Now, unfortunately, for those who don't have Curse of Osiris, that's not going to be an option for them. They can't come back to this part of the quest because it's way too difficult. And not only that, but the final part of the quest actually has you completing the Prestige raid, which is something you can't do either because you're not at the right light. Now, this is just one example of Bungie's oversight with the release of Curse of Osiris and Season 2. Another one of those issues being that you can no longer achieve the Prestige trophy on PlayStation, meaning of course that you cannot platinum the game anymore. Now, oversights are one thing, but the other thing that was very purposely injected was the fact that heroic strikes are locked behind the DLC itself. Not only that, but it also affects Trials of the Nine. Now, late last week, Bungie did reach out and say that they were working on a fix for this, and it seems like they've come to some kind of a solution. So let's go over what they've talked about today. In an update today from the Bungie development team, we learned a little bit more about their vision behind normal and prestige difficulties and what they're doing to address the issues. They started things off by stating, the Destiny endgame features a variety of activities and playlists that we want to remain relevant to players as they grow more powerful. In Destiny 1, as your character grew more powerful throughout each expansion, some of the best content, like Vault of Glass, was left behind and lost its relevance for players. We wanted a better solution for Destiny 2, where all of our endgame activities could stay relevant as each expansion causes your Guardian to grow more and more powerful. Now, conceptually, this makes a lot of sense. One of the biggest player complaints in Destiny 1 was that with the release of every new expansion, all of the content that came beforehand was completely irrelevant because it was stuck at the lower difficulties. So it makes sense that Bungie would want to work out a system to allow these activities to move forward through time. Because whether or not players actually want that content, it means that Destiny now has more relevant content than ever before. If Leviathan were to be left behind, that would mean that there would be no current relevant raid in the current power level. Then the development team went on to describe what their philosophy is with normal versus prestige. The following were our goals when we separated normal and prestige modes. The normal Leviathan and normal Nightfall would always stay at a power level that was accessible to all players. Prestige difficulty would always rise to the new power cap. It would be the pinnacle of challenge with the most prestigious rewards, and therefore would require you to own the latest expansion to be at the new power cap. Now, I actually am okay with this, But here's the big issue. This was never communicated to us. All we saw was that higher difficulty name be changed from Heroic to Prestige, no real reason as to why. And in fact, if you think about this philosophy when compared to the rewards you get for Prestige, it makes a lot of sense. There's no real reason to play Prestige for the most part, because the rewards aren't necessarily any better. The only difference being that you get an aura, and in the case of the raid, you get new shaders and pre-shaded armor. So in essence, this was never meant to be a replacement for Heroic, this was just supposed to be something extra. The power climb is not big enough to accommodate a Heroic difficulty. At least perhaps it wasn't until this expansion. If the raid is 270 and the Prestige is 300, where does Heroic fit in? It would go somewhere in the middle. Now, we have that middle. The raid could have been stuck at 270, they could have introduced a Heroic at 300, and then a Prestige at 330. Moving on from that, they continue to explain that additionally, the game provides seasonal, limited-time PvP events, Trials of the Nine and Iron Banner. These activities and their rewards were meant to evolve with each season, and they utilize new maps, so they would require you to own the latest content. To play the latest season of Iron Banner or Trials, and to earn the new rewards, players would need to own Curse of Osiris. Again, this makes sense on a certain standpoint, which is the really weird assumption that players who don't own Curse of Osiris are going to stop playing Destiny or don't care about endgame activities, which is not true. Now, they go on to explain that this is something that's always been a part of Destiny, but that's sort of what I was hoping would be the challenge with Destiny 2. And they even mentioned that this was something that came out with the main game, so it wasn't right for them to remove it. And yet, that's partially true, because it came out 6 weeks ago. I'm talking about people who just joined on PC. I'm not even sure if 6 weeks is enough time for even casual players to drop off the map. Now, moving away from a philosophy that sort of contradicts itself, in my opinion, we have a solution given by Bungie. These are going to be the changes as of Tuesday. The Prestige Leviathan raid will be brought down to power level 300, and its rewards will drop down to match the new power level. All players will regain access to the Prestige raid. This will allow access to the Prestige achievement/trophy to all players. This will also allow all players ability to complete the final step for the Legend of Acreus exotic shotgun. Now, that doesn't address the actual Arms Dealer Strike itself being at 330, but hopefully that's fixed as well. Also, what does that mean for normal mode Leviathan? Is it going back down to 270, or is it going to be at 300 alongside the Prestige mode? We might just have to wait and see. But anyways, moving on. Trials of the Nine will only require Curse of Osiris when it features a Curse of Osiris map. For all other weeks, it will be available to all players. This will allow access to Lest Ye Be Judged achievement/trophy for all players. Trials of the Nine rewards that launch with Destiny 2 will still be accessible to all players. New seasonal rewards that launch with Curse of Osiris will require ownership of Curse of Osiris to acquire. So, here is the biggest issue with this statement. Here again we have a contradictory statement by Bungie. They went through such great lengths to tell us that Season 2 and Curse of Osiris were separate occasions, but apparently they're not. To enjoy Season 2 to its fullest, or apparently at all, you have to own Curse of Osiris. So what does that mean for Season 3, or Season 4 that apparently doesn't have a DLC? Will that be free to players of the second DLC? Sadly, at this point, it's even more confusing. But anyways, moving on, the Prestige Nightfall will remain a pinnacle activity at the new 330 power cap. This means Prestige Nightfall will require ownership of Curse of Osiris. Because of this, we will update the Prestige Achievement Trophy to only reference the Prestige Raid. Moving forward, we are investigating adding a third difficulty to all Prestige activities so that we can provide both a challenge that stays relevant with each new expansion and a Prestige version that is available to all players. Normal Nightfall will only require Curse of Osiris when it features a Curse of Osiris map. For all other weeks, it will be available to all players. The limited time events, Iron Banner Faction Rally and The Dawning, will be made available to all players. We will be postponing tomorrow's Faction Rally to ensure all of our players can access the activity and appropriate rewards. Iron Banner and Faction Rally rewards that launched with Destiny 2 will still be accessible to all players. New seasonal rewards that launch with Curse of Osiris, such as new seasonal armor ornaments, will require ownership of Curse of Osiris to acquire. So, basically implying that all future live events would have been locked behind Curse of Osiris, and lucky for them, the community outrage was quick enough for them to be able to pull it and change their mind. Now, all in all, my thoughts are that while this is a good first step, it's not the fix for the solution in the long run. I think Bungie needs to take a hard look at what their philosophy is for the coming expansions moving forward. We have a second DLC, and then we will most likely have a Comet-size expansion in the fall. I personally think that those comment or major expansions that happen every year is the only real time where it's acceptable to make this many changes. The game would have been out for a year and the major expansion would be making huge changes to the game. So I'm going to reserve full judgment until we see how it all shakes out. Until then, Bungie did give us one last gleam of hope. We expect these changes to go live tomorrow at the end of the scheduled maintenance to deploy update 1.1.1. Moving forward, we are also looking to improve on heroic strikes with new challenges, new modifiers, and free access for all players. Now, while this sounds like a good thing, we don't know when it's going to be deployed, most likely next year, and it also doesn't address the fundamental issue with strikes, which is that I don't really have a desire to continue to play them over and over again. Anyways, that was it for today's update. If you want to read the full statement, I'll leave a link to it down below. It's going to be a very telling next few months for Bungie. They have a few short months before the second DLC to make you really care about Destiny as a whole. If they don't fix a lot of these core issues and lure back the player base, then the second DLC will sadly be dead on arrival. I, for one, am very much hoping that they turn things around. I'm going to give them a chance with 1.1.1, and then of course they have a lot of things planned for the new year in January, so we'll see soon enough. Anyways, give me your thoughts on this in the comments below, drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe for more Destiny content. And I will see you all next time.